The only thing worse than that, dropping that pizza, was autistic children's education.
Oh yeah, I'm pretty sure I watched a documentary on that.
Yeah, best kept secret. Yeah!
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, isn't that by Samantha Buck? I love her.
Who's Samantha Buck?
Oh, so she wanted to bring awareness to autism, like in other places, with like different races and classes and stuff?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So the way that she achieved her purpose was she went into New Jersey and chose minorities in the inner city and kind of interacted with them.
Yeah, so she picked like kids that came from like bad homes and stuff and like focusing on their stories to like
to really show how like none of these kids really have good homes or education, like they need special care that they're not getting anywhere else.
So the director achieved her purpose where she interacted with the kids from New Jersey in the inner city who are minorities, correct?
Yeah, so she used kids that came from bad homes and she really focused on their stories.
Oh, so like they didn't have good resources, like they weren't getting good educations, and so like she wanted to focus on them and like how they were struggling?
Yeah, and like kids with bad families, like Robert.
By my sister. She couldn't handle it because of her addiction. Drugs. He was living with my mother, and my sister was there with my mother too, but my sister had went to jail. And when she went to jail, my mother could no longer care for Robert. And Robert was undernourished. And he was really, really in a bad shape, you know. And I went in and I took Robert.
Yeah. I think Robert's story is pretty extreme.
Yeah, like how his aunt found him at his mom's house, like emaciated, and he had like an odor. Why was that?
Yeah.
I don't know.
So he was left alone in his home without anyone to care for him, and he didn't know how to care for himself because he wasn't educated enough to take care of himself.
Yeah, there was nobody there for him, where like upper class people could take care of him. He had nobody. He was alone.
Yes.
Yeah, and I think how like they portrayed that shows the real like difference between like the two and how she wanted to like create awareness for all classes.
So she's using like the emotional and like kind of background stories.
Like pathos.
Yeah, pathos. And then she's also using like the logical kind of like facts, because she's also like showing that that there's like these like upper class kids, but then there's also the lower class who don't get like the proper education that they need because they have autism.
So like everyone can relate to it. It's not just like the people who are going to watch this video are going to be upper class, but they can learn about the lower class, but everyone can relate to it.
In the film, they reference that as a falling off the cliff because after they graduate from their schools, they're not provided with adequate opportunities in their homes.
Bye. So all day, all he do is piecework.
He does piecework on, basically because it's a work-oriented program.
Yeah, and that's actually why Tashawn's mom wanted this program.
And we're constantly looking for additional work. Right. We don't like to sit and do the same thing all the time.
Yeah, I know the feeling.
Yeah, some of the opportunities only focused on work, and some of their main selling points were transportation, but no program offered well-rounded things.
It was almost like they were literally falling off a cliff because there's nothing that covered the bases adequately. So after 21, they slowly declined because they weren't being interacted with, and mentally they weren't being challenged.
Yeah, so like they didn't provide like a realistic, like normal life for the kids. They were just being treated as like different, I guess.
They have no goals. They don't have a schedule. They don't they're left with nothing. So from going from school where you woke up in the morning, you did this, this, and this. You went to school. You had a set schedule with a community of people whose job was to help you, and you were around a community like you. And it's coming from that to nothing.
Yeah, like
So that's what she needed to focus on.
they just have you sit in a room and work all day.
Or just like play games, and that's not gonna do anything for anybody except for like make them creative. But that's not how real life works.
So basically, that's what she wanted to focus on. That's what happens after the age of 21 for these children.
And what she wants to show like how we need to change it, and like how these teachers are trying to change the system because it's not working.
It's not, yeah, there's no system basically.
Tashawn was verbal. It's like factory work.
And that's what they do in the
big
work
spot
program,
in-
unless
right,
they
and I
have
understand
skills.
that,
And you
yeah.
have to remember the
That's-
work
I asked the
program is a
question.
government program, and the emphasis is on working.
Right.
That's it.
Exactly, but
But
to
to
me,
send,
they children with autism, we understand, they special need children.
Right.
So we are going to give them a work program, but we also going to give them, we're going to mix that up because we're going to give them, oh, what word am I looking for?
the social recreation.
We're going to give them a life. It's up to us.
But like also like that the other woman in the film was alluding to, how can you give these kids such a great education and work overtime and go like jump over boundaries if they can't even like not function but like they can't handle real life situations, like Eric, who's working at Burger King, and he couldn't find someone to like help check up on him and like help him with his tasks, so he got fired. Like he couldn't handle what he was given, even though he had like graduated as valedictorian.
So we're going to talk about transition.
Okay.
And going to have a discussion about what happens with our students once they leave here, and particularly since your entire class is graduating. One of the biggest problems that we have for students with autism is there's not a whole lot of resources post-high school. So they have like a day recreational program where the kids just come and do activities, and then they have a work program. But it's not anything what I would consider, a standard traditional job.
Do they have any living?
Yeah, so I think Janet Mino's argument was very valid because she spends all her time and she dedicates her life to helping these kids and goes above and beyond and works overtime for them.
Yeah, honestly the whole film proves its point by going beyond statistics and showing how actual families are affected by the work that Janet's doing.
And also it showed the kid that had already graduated out, and he was at a program, and he came back to the school one day to visit the teacher, but he had a breakdown. So it shows that even with all her effort, she was still able to help him through his breakdown. Even though this kid was not in her care anymore, and he was just visiting, she could still she still wanted to help him and wanted to make sure he was okay and he was getting the success that he deserved.
Yeah, and with one kid, they were able to give him a new technology like a phone, and he was able to use that to talk. And where the other kids fell off the cliff, he was able to continually improve and get better than they were because he was given this new technology that wasn't available for everybody. So because he was given this new thing, which kind of was a reform for his own education because it was different from everybody else's and it was new, he was able to progress and continue getting better while everyone else kind of slipped and fell
So
after they graduated.
Instead of just talking about the change and wanting to change, they actually got new technology and experimented with it.
With this kid, they experimented and made a difference, and it proves that the film was valid because they used an example where it actually worked when they reformed the education.
In real life.
In real life, yeah.
Yeah, I think the tone of the film is hopeful because it shows throughout the film how she works really hard with these kids, and it shows how the kids have improved every single day, and during their graduation it kind of gives you a feeling that they're going to go far in life because of how happy and hopeful they were.
But also at the end it shows where the kids were a couple months after graduation, and not everyone had the happiest story. Like, some of them went back into old habits. Robert attacked a teacher and had to be taken into his home.
Yeah, and with Eric, I mean, he got his job at Burger King during the film, but at the end he ended up losing it because he wasn't able to complete his tasks because he couldn't find a case manager.
So at the end, it turns into a very realistic film. Not that it wasn't at the beginning, but it shows that not everything has a happy ending, even with like all of her like hope and faith in these kids.
Robert was.
The scene where they show the trash in the tree is an example of a simple shot because there's not much really going on, and it just kind of like helps the viewer reflect on what has happened in the previous scene and kind of like helps them learn about the issue that happened.
It allows the amount of information that was just loaded onto them that they have the time to let it sink in.
Yeah, there's a lot of simple shots where it gives you time to reflect and think about the real life events that just happened, you know.
So like basically the composition of the majority of the video was very minimal. There wasn't any times where they were trying to be fake and just try to entertain you. It was to show like how real it was.
They didn't sugarcoat it at all. They just got straight to the point, in your face. This is how it is. Something needs to change.
And so that's why there was like some like moments where no one was speaking and it like was like silent, dead screen, nothing was happening. But
And also
that was what the point was.
Yeah, and to add like to kind of put it on a personal level, they used point of view. So they would do it almost from the teacher's perspective, showing the kids and like how they were interacting and how they were responding to the teacher. So it kind of seems like you're almost trying to interact with this kid and the struggle that it can be and how hard it can be for these kids and for the teachers.
Yeah, with the point of view they did it where like you were in the room or you were part of the interview, like you were actively engaged with the kids. It wasn't like you were farther back as they walked past. I mean, they looked at the camera, you'd see them. It was almost like you're making eye contact with them so you can really connect with them.
So the structure of the film kind of followed a chronological order of the students with all the opportunities they had once they graduated, and it showed the progression and the regression of the students.
Yeah, they started 18 months out, and then as the film progressed, they would do a year out, then 6 months, and then they did it at graduation and after to kind of give you like a timeline of each kid's life. As they picked 2 or 3 kids to really focus on, then they followed them with interviews and stuff like that.
Yeah, and with the interviews, they were very frequent, and it showed how like the efforts of the teachers and the opportunities that they were being given, how it went beyond the school, and how it like influenced them at home, and how these parents were becoming influenced to help their kids as well instead of just treating them as a burden. So the interviews kind of took it outside of like just the school system and showed how like this was really affecting these kids personally rather than just academically.
Yeah, it added a lot of emotion to the film.
Yeah, it kind of zoomed out from just the education. It's not just about the education, it's about their lives too.
So I think this film can relate back to the education movement during the antebellum period because it shows the different minorities and the different classes and how people want to dedicate their time to change other people's lives.
Yeah, which I think reminds me a lot of Janet Mino because she was really similar to all the reformers that we talked about in our documentary because she was so dedicated.
Like
sorry, go ahead.
okay, she went out to actually make a difference, just like the reformers in the education antebellum movement. She actually went out, spent extra time to take care of these kids and to make a difference.
And when she did make a difference with these children, she wanted the upper class and the rest of the world to know what she was doing, so that the ideas that she had, the difference that she was making, could be spread throughout all the minorities of the world.
Overall, all the critics really liked this movie or this documentary because it really moved people. One of the critics even donated to the cause, so it just shows how much this film went into depth about their lives.
A lot of the critics felt that it gave a great insight to autistic kids in general, but also to inner city problems and
problem with minorities and just a broad amount of things. And also got people thinking about other stuff and just how if it's bad for them, it can be bad for other people. It's not just like one group. Like most things affect everybody. And this kind of highlights that when it contrasts the upper class
Yeah, like
the inner city.
yeah, like it affects like everything in our world, not just autism.